Hello everybody and welcome back. Our party have found themselves back in this octagonal room, and well above their heads they see that chute, and it looks so tempting to try and find a way to get out that way, because this place has proven to be a bit of a nightmare. We spent some time wandering through all these caverns only to end up back where we started, and there was a hell of a lot of creatures in this place. There were 2 set encounters and 3 wandering monsters. Right, we've come across a lot of berserkers. I've got a feeling that the hobgoblins throw their prisoners down here and just leave them to go mad. So what do we do next? We have 6 doors unopened. So if we start with number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's see if we can come to any kind of consensus as to which one to try. It's door number 3 or 5. Let Sylvia decide which one it should be. 3 takes us east, 5 takes us southwest, 1 to 3 east, 4 to 6 southwest. And we decide to open this door, and sure enough, we do open it. Corridor goes southwest for a bit, for about 20 feet, and then goes south for about another 60 feet before it curves to the southwest again, and it keeps going. It seems to go into the distance. We get this far before we have to make a wandering monster check. And thankfully we don't find anything. Now it continues to the southwest in total for maybe about 80 feet before it suddenly stops and turns a sharp turn north. We see an entrance to the west, and the tunnel goes further north into the darkness. Okay, so we're going to do the usual thing. We're going to shutter the lantern, and we're going to have Carrick creep forward a bit to see if there's anything to see with infravision in this area. Right, I'm replaying this bit simply because I had Carrick using infravision. Regardless of the fact that the people in here don't have infravision, I never asked myself, how do they see in the pitch dark? We're here, we shutter the lantern. Carrick creeps forward round the corner on the grounds that he will use his infravision to look ahead. But this place here is dimly lit, and it's a 40 by 20 foot cavern. And he sees quite clearly in the dark a figure on a throne and 4 others surrounding him. They have set something on fire to ward off the darkness. What it is, he can't see, but there is a small fire here in front of the throne, and whatever they're burning smells rank, but it seems to be all that these people have to ward off the darkness. And from the mad look on their faces, these are more berserkers. These people have never been friendly. Carrick is going to creep back, so we might as well go forward in formation and face whatever is going to happen. We have Donard and Carrick at the front, Sylvia slightly flanking from behind, and they're on melee, and everybody else is on archery, and Malin is at the back with the lamp ready for spells. And we're going to creep forward into this room, and let's read a bit of a description. A large human sits on the stone chair, pathetically resembling a throne. He is wrapped in a tattered purple carpet, having donned it like a robe. 4 other men kneel at his side. If the man on the throne catches sight of the characters, he booms out, "Who seeks an audience with Derrywinky III? Kneel, peons." Do we immediately kneel in front of this person? Well, I can't imagine Donard putting up with that kind of crap. Donard's face screws up in contempt at the pompous berserker in front of him, sitting on the throne. He sneers and says sarcastically, "O great king, king of the underworld, apologies for not bowing before you. We were taken aback by your wonderfulness." The king has clearly lost that part of his mind which can understand other people's feelings. It doesn't matter what tone of voice Donard used, it was just the words that mattered, and the words please him. The king gives a beneficent nod of the head, graciously accepting the praise. Then he sweeps a hand out towards the floor. Donard is puzzled at the gesture. He hears Sylvia whisper in his ear, "Kneel." "Kneel?" Donard hisses back. "This is not the time to let your charisma overrule your wisdom," Sylvia says back. "This place seems to be crawling with berserkers. We've fought at least 8 already. He might have 20 of them to set upon us." The king was getting impatient, and he waves his hand again, but his expression is darkening. The party kneels. Liz looks around to make sure Gareth Ironhand and Cullen de Filch are joining in, no matter how humiliating. She hears Gareth grumbling to her left. Cullen, however, was nowhere to be seen. He had been hanging behind and was probably still in the tunnels. He could even be watching from the dark. The 4 other berserkers, who were kneeling, stand up and take their place beside the king. "What tribute will you give us?" asks the king. The party, from their kneeling position, all look around at each other. No one wants to offer food, that's scarce. Liz is reluctant to give away any money. She wishes she had taken all the copper pieces they've found, but she remembers Cullen has taken those. And then Malin's voice from the back pipes up. "Light," he says. "Light?" says the king. His sister, in front of him, has several torches attached to her backpack. Malin takes one. He stands up. The 4 berserker guards reach for their swords, but Malin walks forward and thrusts the light into the meagre smelly fire. The torch starts to burn and the cave brightens. The berserkers harumph in approval. Malin turns to Liz and asks her to give over 4 more torches. She stands up and presents them to the king. He waves to one of his bodyguards to take the gift. "I am pleased," says the king. "I give you the freedom of my realm. You are free to go and find more gifts for me. You will find I am a powerful and just ruler. Should you need the aid of my warriors to defend the kingdom, you can but ask." "Yeah, thanks," says Donard. The party backs out of the cave and round a corner out of sight. "We don't have to kill everyone," says Sylvia. "Had we met those 4 bodyguards in the tunnel, do you think they would want to murder us?" asks Donard. "I can always heal wounds, but I can't ever heal the humiliation of going through that again." Well, our party walk backwards out of this chamber in abject humiliation. But at least they're alive, and whilst it's been proven they can easily take on 4 berserkers, it's also true that they have no idea how many berserkers are in these tunnels and how many this king can call upon. So we go north, and doesn't take long before we're faced with another junction. The tunnel goes ahead, and it also goes off to the west. Let us vote for where we think we should go next. 1, 2, 3 is north. And everybody but Liz wants to go north, so north it is. And it becomes immediate to whoever in the party is the mapper. And maybe even Carrick. Something isn't right. We should have hit this tunnel. So I'm going to roll a dice for Carrick. And he has no good reason to understand why. But we continue north anyway for another 60 feet, and the path rounds a corner. And is there anything waiting for us round this corner? There isn't. So it continues to the northwest for probably another 80 feet, and it opens up into a wider area. There's clearly something to the north which looks like a cave, and cave system also goes southward, and we're here. We're not the only people in this cave. We seem to have blundered into it, because in the corner here are 3 giant shrews. Okay, as the leading character advances into the room, the adult shrews bound out in fury, lashing at the intruders with razor-sharp teeth. The young are too small to engage in combat. Note that giant shrews always gain initiative on their first attack, and for their second attack they gain +1, right? A silence 15-foot radius spell can blind them. This is a new monster, so let us enjoy reading up about a new monster. I'm assuming it's shrew, giant. Indeed it is. Armor class 4, hit dice 1. They use, they're blind, so they use squeaks to, in effect, see. Its attack is so ferocious, attacking the head and shoulders of the defender, that any victim with 3 hit dice or less must make a saving throw versus death ray or run away in fear. Well, that's good that our 2 frontliners are level 4. I'm going to assume then there is no surprise. Let's see actually if they surprise us. On a roll of 1 to 2. They don't. They get initiative on the first round, and there's 3 of them. Who gets attacked by 2 and who gets attacked by 1? Donard is the orange dice. And Carrick rolls less, so he has got 2 giant shrews on him. And they do 1d6 times 2 damage. Right, for 2 attacks. Okay. The first one on Carrick gets 2 attacks. And it misses both. The second one on Carrick gets 2 attacks. And it misses both. They're only hit dice level 1 monsters. And the one that's on Donard gets 2 attacks. And it misses both. Okay. That was their initiative round. So it's our turn. So let's open up with the usual archery. Liz hits and kills 1. Cullen hits and takes 1 from 4 down to 1 HP. And Gareth Ironhand also hits just and takes 1 from 6 down to 2. Good round of archery. Let's see if Donard can attack the one that's on him. No, he misses. I think he might be a bit alarmed by the shrewishness. Sylvia with a sword also helps Donard, and she misses, and Carrick attacks the one on him, and he misses. Right, it's round 2. They get +1 onto their initiative roll, and which means it's mutual. There's 2 of them left. I'm going to say they're quite ferocious. So the one on Donard, or we'll do the one on Carrick first. And both their attacks miss. And the one on Donard, both miss. These things have flown out of the corner, and I bite twice in rapid succession. Right, so it's our turn. Let's see if that sharp shooting round can happen again. Not with Liz. What about Cullen? No. And yes, +1 for a short range bonus. Then Gareth Ironhand hits AC 4, and that's just enough, and he does 3 damage. It's enough to kill the one on Carrick. One dwarf looks out for the other dwarf. So Donard has to fight the one that's on him, and he misses. So let's see if our elf can hit it. She misses badly, and it's up to Carrick to, yes, hit and kill it. So there are some giant shrew babies here, and none of us really have the heart to kill them. And that's really all that's in this cave. As we look around, we have 2 ways to go. We can go eastward or southward. Now we've got a feeling that taking us back eastward, we might hit this path here. Or do we go southward? Let's roll for this. 1, 2, 3 is eastward. And a bit of a split decision. Malin, Donard and Sylvia, our 3 magic wielders, want to go southward. So that is what indeed we do, and cave goes southwest for a small bit, and then curves around and goes southward, and we can see it going off into the distance. So we go due south for another 60 feet, and come to a junction. Anything waiting for us at this junction? There isn't. I think we're going to spend some time with some staves of healing, because Carrick is on 18 out of a possible 25, and Donald is on 18 out of a possible 27. So I'll roll 2 staves of healing for Carrick and Donard. As usual, Donard is the orange dice, Carrick is the green. Right, that's good. Donard is up to 25, Carrick is up to 23. Very happy with that. And where do we go? Well, it seems that the eastward passage will lead back to this one. So we'll go along it, and sure enough they join up. Then we can go back to here, and we will shutter our lantern and see what's coming up ahead. Well, Carrick is the one that goes forward, and he sees that this opens up into a cave, and there are lots of bones lying around the place. This looks ominous, and so he goes forward a bit more, and here, using infravision, he sees a very large shape, and it seems, well, let's see what it seems to be doing. This large shape is lying in a lump. It looks like it's asleep, and it might be a bear. Right, now I'm going to have to use... Now, is this a creature from the expert rulebook or the basic rulebook? This is... Even though this is in the basic rulebook, this is quite a high level creature. Hit dice 5, and it's an owlbear. Okay, a note here. If both its paws hit one opponent in one round, the owlbear hugs for an additional 2 to 16 points of damage. This thing is seriously bad, and it's only worth 175 XP. Well, we've never encountered this before, but I think we'll back off. We don't know it's an owlbear, we just know it's like a giant bear type shape, and there's lots of human-like bones. Right, so what are we going to do? Well, Donard has the bright idea, since he can't stand these berserkers here, that he's going to get the king of the berserkers. He said he would defend his kingdom and anybody from any dangers. So we're going to ask him to do that. We're going to go back round here, and we're going to kneel in front of this king and his 4 berserkers and say, "Oh, your highnessness, we've discovered a ferocious creature that seems to be eating your men in a cave just behind here. We humbly ask that you help us defend your kingdom against this creature which seems to be attacking your people." And the king nods very wisely, says, "Indeed, I have thought of this myself." He didn't. "Take 4 of my best warriors," and he indicates to his bodyguards to go forth and slay this creature. And that is what we will do. So we go back and we have 4 berserker warriors. What are they armed with? They do damage 1d8. I can assume they're armed with swords. And they have an armor class of 7. They're dead. What are their hit points? 9, 7, 6, and 4. Right, okay. And they're going to take on an owlbear while we help from behind. Right. We're going to let the 4 berserkers go first. Then we're going to have Donard and Carrick second. And then we're going to have everybody else on archery. And we're going to fight an owlbear. Let's see how that goes. Right, I've set this up because there are rather a lot of us. 5 party members, 2 retainers, 4 berserkers, and an owlbear. These guys are not subtle. They are berserkers. They fly into a rage at battle. So the owlbear is awakened. We know it's there. There is no surprise. Let's roll for initiative. Right. And it gets initiative. These berserkers are dead, so they move forward into the fight. The owlbear moves up, and it will attack this one. Right, it gets 3 attacks, 1d8 damage on each. So let's do 2 attacks. And what is its Thaco? It's a 5-hit dice monster. Its Thaco is 15. It hits AC 3 and AC -2, and it easily does 9 points of damage. That is the lead berserker dead, right? That's its round. Okay, round 2. We'll have these 3 chaps on it. No, we'll have to do archery first. So we all pile in afterwards. And we've got 4 archers. I'm going to definitely have to apply that -3 THACO penalty. Though essentially -2 because everybody has short range. Right, so let's do Gareth Ironhand with a crossbow. And he misses. And then Liz hits and does 3 damage. It's from 22 down to 19. Our retainer hits, and it has AC 5 by the way, and does 5 damage. It's from 19 down to 14. And Sylvia also hits and does 6 damage. It's from 14 down to 8. That was an incredibly good round. But these boys, Donard and Garrick, are not going to go into this fight, so let's do Berserker 1. This guy here. Remember, they have a +2 to their THACO. Their veins are popping in their heads. One of their comrades has fallen. Their eyes are bulging. Their mouths are frothing. And that misses. The second one misses. And the third one misses badly. Right, of course, even though those are misses, that doesn't necessarily mean they hit fresh air. It also could mean that the owlbear has fended them off with its own claws, slashing left and right, and they can't get a good fight in. Donard and Carrick, they're holding the line. Round to 2. And we get initiative. So we had such a good archery round. Gareth hits again, even with that -2 THACO penalty. He hits AC 4 and does 2 damage. It's from 8 down to 6. Liz misses. Cullen misses badly. Right, does he miss badly enough that he hits Carrick in the back of the head? If he rolls 50% or less, the answer is yes, he did. Oh, and he rolls 30. Right, that was 2 damage. So yes, he hits Carrick in the back of the head. Oh dear. And Sylvia, who we know is prone to these things, misses. So our 3 berserkers. The first one hits. He gets +2 onto his THACO, which is essentially 14. That's AC 5. And he kills the owlbear, and it dies. We definitely overwhelmed that creature, and I'm glad that the berserker took the brunt of the first round of attacks rather than any of us. While they cheer and lift their swords aloft and say the kingdom is saved, and we say yes, yes indeed it is. Great kingdom that. Okay, well that fight went a bit quicker than I thought, but as I say, that creature was heavily outnumbered, and we had some really good missile rounds there. Well, they can go back to their king and tell him the good news. We, on the other hand, are going to loot these dead bodies, and we find nothing. Apart from a pool of fresh water that we can fill up our water skins from. Okay. Now where have we got to explore? We can follow the berserkers back to their king. Or else we can explore this cavern here, and it'll take us 2 turns to get to here. So we have to make a wandering monster check by the time we get to here. And there isn't anything. So we cross this cavern floor and we go southwest-ish in a reasonably straight line. And again, we don't come across this tunnel. Now there are rules for the mapping of this, should anybody realise there is something uncanny. We're told many tunnels slope gradually upward or downward, crossing over or under other tunnels the party is not aware of. Whenever two corridors intersect on the map, one is shown by dotted lines, the other is marked by the usual solid lines. The corridors marked with dotted lines pass under the corridors marked with solid lines. And if you actually look at the map, while that is indeed true, the dotted lines aren't overly dotted, could have been a bit more broken. If a dwarf wants to check for sloping passages, examine the party's location on the map. If the party is within 60 feet of an intersecting solid and dotted lines, and if the dwarf is successful on his roll, consult the map again. If the passage the PCs are on is underneath another tunnel, the slope is downward, and vice versa, the slope is upward for the other way. And if the dwarf asks for a check at a time when the party is not within 60 feet of an intersection, you roll for him anyway, but the result is always no slope. So we're going to come to the conclusion, yes, something is going on here. How daft can we be? But the tunnel goes to about here, and we have to make another wandering monster check. And we don't find any. And it continues on, and as we creep forward, we see ahead of us a door. Liz listens at the door and hears nothing. And we open the door and we find ourselves back in this beginning room again. Oh boy. And that's where I'm going to leave it for today.